Alright, I am back with another video, and today we're doing something a little bit different. Now, initially this video was a challenge. I was asked to do a build that, instead of going all the way to level 12, only went to level 6. And that got me thinking, I'm like, well, that's not really a build, that's just half of a build, right? Well, no, it's interesting to kind of come up with a concept and that is mechanically and thematically complete by the time you get to level 6. So I thought, okay, well maybe I'll approach this from a different angle. Why don't I do this as a bit of a, not a beginner's build, but the idea of a build that you can easily make, easily use, and then also but is also quite powerful and has some interesting themes and mechanics. And I think I've come up with something really fun that I think people will like. So you can call this a beginner's guide, because I do think this build will work well for someone who is new to Baldur's Gate 3. Maybe you're getting it for Christmas, maybe you know, you've just kind of gotten an interest in it recently because of videos you've seen, or maybe because, you know, you've seen how much support the game's been getting and you're kind of into the idea of trying it out. So I'm going to show you guys today what I think is one of the more powerful builds that you can get made in Act 1. Now, when I say Act 1, I mean all the equipment that I'm going to be showing you here can all be obtained before Act 2 begins. Now, for the sake of spoilers, I'm not going to say exactly where Act 2 begins, but for people who know, you know. For people who don't know, be assured that all this equipment can be obtained fairly early, and there will be no spoilers here, other than, you know, the equipment and the levels. In which case, and I will be showing you how you get one of the more important pieces of equipment here, but it's a very minor, I wouldn't even call it a spoiler, it's just, hey, there is this encounter, if you do this, you get this. That's all it is, it's not really a spoiler at all. But anyways, let's get into the build. First off, we're going to be starting off as a Barbarian. Now, this is going to be important because it's going to mix well with our race, which is the Githyanki. You're going to make a Githyanki character, whether you want to play as your own custom character, like I have done here, or if you want to play as the Lae'zel origin character, either or will work. It will be mechanically the same, so it is a pick your favourite kind of situation there. So this works for a created Githyanki character, that being regular or Dark Urge, or the Lae'zel origin. And I'm planning on doing some origin builds soon. I've got one made up for Karlek, and I'm going to be posting that starting next week, and I'm going to be doing origin character builds next week, so stay tuned for that. But that's more end of video stuff. I'm getting ahead of myself here. But with that, you're going to be a level 1 Barbarian. This is going to give you a few things. We're going to be getting Rage, which basically means you're going to deal an extra little bit of damage with melee, improvised weapons and throwing, which is important, and it's also going to make you resistant to certain damage types, that being resistant to physical damage, so bludgeoning, piercing and slashing, the usual stuff you'll kind of see from melee weapons or maybe like bows and arrows and such, so things like that. And you also gain advantage on strength checks and saves. This is all really important for a playstyle that we're going to be using, and you'll see why. But being of Githyanki is also going to give us a few good things as well, such as astral knowledge, allowing us to gain proficiency in all skills of a chosen ability. Now, this is going to allow you to kind of be the face of the party, getting proficiency in things like, you know, persuasion, for example, where you normally wouldn't be able to as a Barbarian. This means you're going to be able to do a bit more on the dialogue side of things as well, again, making this quite a good build for someone who is newer to the game. And also, because we're starting as a Barbarian and a Githyanki, we're going to get some extra proficiencies for our weapons and armour, meaning we can use simple and martial weapons, that's basically all weapons in the game, which is nice. You're not going to be too limited for your selection. You're also going to get light armour, medium armour, and shields, and we only really want medium armour proficiency here, but the others are a nice bonus, and we're also going to get some other things. But let's get into the ability scores. You kind of want to build your character as such. You want to put your strength up to 17. This is going to be super important. You're going to want to put your, oh, my stats have been a bit messed up. You'll have to excuse me. There we go. Fixed. So yes, here we are. So you want your strength at 17. This is going to be your main stat that you're going to want to have as high as you can possibly get it. So with that, you definitely want to pick this up. Dexterity at 14. You don't really need this. You do need dexterity, but you don't need as much. 14 is the maximum amount to get the highest amount of defense out of your armor, so that, or at least the armor we're going to be using, so this is about what you want. Constitution is going to give you a really decent amount of HP at 16, and you're going to want this since this is more of a tanky build. You're going to be more of a frontline fighter taking damage for your allies, and you'll see what I mean when we get into it, but let's keep going. And finally, you can put your last 2 points into whatever stat you like. I've chosen Wisdom just so we have a slightly better chance of making a Wisdom saving throws, but if you want to be a bit better in dialogue, you could go with Charisma. It's entirely up to you. As for our proficiencies, there's nothing too crazy here. Just pick whatever you like. Your background will determine your main things. I've gone with the soldier background for athletics and intimidation, but that's not 100% necessary. You can pick whatever you like. And I'm just going to go with perception and survival for our proficiencies here. But it's entirely up to you. At Barbarian level 2, you're going to get a few interesting things. You're going to get Danger Sense, giving you advantage on dexterity saving throws against traps, spells, and surfaces, which is really good. That's going to give you a bit more tankiness against certain spells, but you're also going to get Reckless Attack. This is going to give you advantage on your attack rolls, meaning that all of your attacks are way more likely to hit, and it comes with the caveat that your enemies also have advantage to hit you, but because you're going to be so tanky against lots of damage types, this isn't going to matter as much, so it's basically free advantage on every attack roll you make, meaning that you're going to get a lot more power. So overall, definitely worth it. Now at Barbarian level 3, you're going to get the most important thing here. That is your subclass. Now subclasses are pretty important overall, and usually I go with the Berserker, but today we're doing something a bit different and going with the Wild Heart. Wild Heart is going to give you a few interesting things. Namely, it's going to give you Speak with Animals, which again, for someone who is kind of playing this game for the first time, would really enjoy being able to talk with all the animals in the game, so this is absolutely worth having. It's great, you can cast it with no cost to yourself, and it's just going to allow you to speak with animals, which, as the spell implies, which is really, really good. As for, but you also get to choose a Bestial Heart, which means you get to pick a specific specialization for your build. Now, there are a few here, but the one we're going to be focusing on today is Bear Heart. This means that your rage is now augmented. Your rage is going to make now, as a bear rage, is going to be super, super tough. You now have resistance to all damage types except psychic damage, meaning you are now an extremely effective tank. And for those of you that don't know, resistance means you now take half damage from all damage types except psychic. You're also going to get Unrelenting Ferocity, which is going to allow you to heal. So on top of being able to take minimal damage, you're going to be able to heal yourself, allowing you to stay in the fight way longer. You also get a nice little cosmetic option in these piercings, and we'll stick with the bear piercings for now because I actually don't think they look too bad, but you do have the option to turn those off if you so desire. At Barbarian level 4, we've got you do have the ability to change your heart every level, so if you feel like Bear isn't really doing it for you, you can swap it out, but we're going to keep Bear for now. But at this level, we are going to get a feat, and I'm going to suggest that you take the feat Tavern Brawler. This is going to allow you to round out your strength to 18, giving you the next kind of stage of buffs there, and also is going to allow you to, whenever you make an unarmed attack, use an improvised weapon, or throw something, you add your strength modifier twice to the damage and attack rolls, essentially giving you a higher chance to hit, and also twice the usual damage that you would normally get when throwing or using an improvised weapon, which we are going to be doing in addition to our main attacks, so we absolutely want to use this here. At Barbarian level 5, you're going to get two extremely important things. Extra attack, which means now when you make a weapon attack or throw something or use an improvised weapon, you can now do it a second time within that same turn, which is super important. You're also going to get fast movement. Your movement speed is increased by 3 meters while not wearing heavy armor. We're not wearing heavy armor, we're wearing medium armor, so we're going to be able to close in on our enemies a lot quicker. And also as a Githyanki, we're also going to get Misty Step at this level, which is a teleportation spell, which you will find useful. And then our final level for this video is level 6, and I'm going to recommend you actually multi-class at this point. Jump out of Barbarian and over to Fighter. Fighter is going to give you some important things, namely Second Wind, meaning that now you can use both your action and your bonus action to heal. So you, as well as being a tank that can heal with their action, you can now heal with a bonus action, meaning you heal yourself twice in one turn. So if you end up taking a lot of damage, even with your tankiness, you can heal it right back and continue fighting. you're also going to grab a fighting style, and since we are using a greatsword with this build, I recommend going with great weapon fighting, meaning that whenever you roll a low number, a 1 or a 2, on the damage die for an attack with a two-handed weapon, which a greatsword is, that die is re-rolled once, meaning that you're less likely to hit lower damage numbers, so while also being able to tank a ton of damage, you can also deal a ton of damage. And that is the build, or at least for now. So what you're going to get out of this build is two really fun things in Baldur's Gate 3. One, you're going to have an insane amount of tankiness in combat, allowing you to basically jump right in to the middle of heavy combat without really needing to worry. You're going to have a ton of tankiness, and you're going to be able to close in on your enemies real quickly with the fast movement. But of course, because you are a strength-based barbarian with the Tavern Brawler feat, you are also going to be enabling yourself to use one of the most fun playstyles in the game, which is a throwing build. Meaning that where you can throw items in your inventory, throw your weapons, throw other enemies at each other, and deal massive amounts of damage, allowing you to use your extra movement again that you have from Barbarian to be able to move into position to make the most powerful attacks, because if you throw things from high up, they deal more damage. So you can both play at close range with your big greatsword, which I'll get to in a minute, or you can play from afar, throwing things and dealing a ton of damage. So overall, with a build like this, you are going to get a ton of fun, and again, a ton of power, but it's still quite simple. So I think overall, again, if you're kind of newer to the game, or you want something new to try that will come online really quickly, this is an amazing build to try, in my opinion. But let's get into the equipment and how it makes it even better. So let's get into the big thing here, and that is the Silver Sword of the Astral Plane. Now, again, if you're a newer player and you're seeing the fact that this is a legendary weapon, you're probably thinking, what the hell am I talking about? A legendary weapon at the start of the game? And yes, you absolutely can. Most people might know this already, but I'm just going to go over it here just in case you don't know. You can obtain the Silver Sword of the Astral Plane really, really early on by using a specific spell that one of your companions, Shadowheart, can get straight from level 1. Basically, kind of in Act 1, in one of the locations, you can encounter a party of Githyanki, one of which is wielding this sword. Now you can see in the footage that I have on screen now that what you need to do is you need to cast the spell Command, specifically the drop variant, on the leader, Kithrak Voss. He is holding this weapon. Now it has a 9% chance to succeed, so what you'll want to do is before you attempt it, quick save, and then if you don't get the drop, you reload. Now it has a 9% chance to drop, but if you keep saving and reloading, you can attempt it an infinite amount of times until you get it. And for me, it took about, I would say, 2 to 3 minutes of attempts before it eventually dropped for me, in which case you'll just have to either defeat the encounter or find a way to escape, stealth back in, and take it. I wouldn't recommend gunning straight for this as soon as you start the game. I would follow the natural flow of the game, follow the storyline, get to level 3 or 4 maybe, level 3 at least, before attempting this combat encounter. On balanced difficulty. On Tactician you might want to go a bit further, but if you're a beginner, I'm assuming you're not playing on Tactician, you will be able to get this sword quite easily. But now let's get into what it actually does. The Silver Sword of the Astral Plane, if you are a Githyanki, deals an extra 1d6 psychic damage on top of its regular 2d6 damage, which is pretty powerful. But it plays into our strategy quite nicely. A Githyanki holding this weapon has advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws, which is really cool. It's going to help you a lot in combat encounters, so you're kind of like mentally tanky as well as physically tanky, which is cool. You gain resistance to psychic damage, meaning that with our Bare Heart Rage, and plus this weapon, we are now resistant to every damage type in the game, aside from falling damage, but I'd like to think you're not throwing yourself off of cliffs if you're new to this game. But if there is ways, you can actually get resistance to falling damage as a Wild Heart Barbarian if you take it to level 6, but I'm not going to get into that here. And you cannot be charmed either. This is a +3 weapon, which is the highest tier of weapon enchantment in the game, and you also do get a unique attack with this, called the Soulbreaker, which deals an additional 1d6 +3 psychic damage on top of the 1d6 psychic damage you get from being a Githyanki, and it can also stun the enemy. And if you don't know, Stunning means that they cannot take actions, bonus actions, or reactions. They are completely immobile, which is super important, and that lasts for 2 turns. You can only use this attack once per short rest, but with an attack this powerful, once is usually enough. So that is the main weapon of this build and how to get it. Let's get into the rest. Again, if you're new to the channel or you're just new to Baldur's Gate 3 in general, the way I usually do these things is I will have links to the Baldur's Gate 3 wiki pages for all of this equipment in the description. So while I won't be going over how to get it all in this video exactly, you can check the wiki pages, and again, there will be no spoilers, because these are usually tied to very early game stuff. In fact, some of these you can literally just go and get. But I will kind of go over it here as well. The Haste Helm. At the start of combat, the wearer gains momentum for 3 turns. This can be obtained as soon as you enter the Blighted Village, which is a very, very early game location, and is literally just sitting there in a locked chest. You just have to lockpick it and pick it up. Super, super easy to get. And it's going to be great for a build like this. Spurred on by a sense of urgency, the affected entity's movement speed is increased by 1.5 meters per remaining duration of this effect. It basically means you're going to be able to travel further for 3 turns at the start of combat. For a Barbarian, this is really useful. It's going to allow you to close, especially when you're a lower level Barbarian and you don't have fast movement yet, because it's going to allow you to close in on your enemies extremely quickly, meaning that you can get straight in there and start hitting them right away. And I've kind of used some other pieces of equipment to bolster this effect, but this is one of the pieces that helps with it the most. Let's keep going if it will let me. Now, this is the Adamantine Scale Mail. I say this is a beginner's build, but you do get this from beating quite a difficult boss in the early game. So while it is like, but this is kind of something to strive for before you reach Act 2, because I feel like everyone should fight this boss. But basically what this will do is it will reduce all incoming damage by 1. When a melee attack hits you, the attacker is sent reeling for 2 turns, which just means they take a penalty on their attack rolls against you, and you can't have critical hits landed on you, meaning you're way more tanky. This is something to strive for, but honestly, for the start of the game, the default clothing you get mixed with your Barbarian unarmed defense will work quite nicely, or even if you just wanted to use the Githyanki half plate, which is the starting armor for Lae'zel, which you can just take from her if you recruit her or if you play as her, and you could just use that and you'll be absolutely fine. This is more of an armor to strive towards, but really you can just use any medium or lower armor that you pick up. But this is just something that you should try and aim for. Beat the boss to get this and pick this up. It is absolutely worth it, and it will actually be good enough to last all the way until the end of the game, in my opinion. The next thing you can grab is the Gloves of Uninhibited Kashigo. You get these at the end of a questline in a location that comes up kind of closer to the end of Act 1, but is still a big part of it. The wearer deals an additional 1d4 damage with throw attacks and attacks made of improvised weapons, meaning that when you throw something or throw someone, you are going to be doing even more damage. And finally, the Boots of Speed. These are going to allow you to dash as a bonus action, meaning that you can get a huge amount of speed for free, pretty much, since we only use our bonus action really for raging, so we can use it for dashing as well as when we don't need to start our rage. So this is going to allow you to close in on enemies really, really quickly. If for some reason you can't throw something, you just want to get in there and use your big sword, this is going to make that a lot easier. So definitely want to pick these up, they're super easy to get. Next up, I'm going to mess this up, Periapt of Wound Closure. I hope I said that correctly. Because you are a tank, there is a chance that you are going to get downed or are going to need healing. And I would recommend having a healing party member, like Shadowheart. But this is going to give you 2 things that a tank build loves. When you're downed, you will automatically stabilize at the start of the turn, meaning that if you go down, you don't need to make death saving throws. You can just wait for an ally to bring you back up without the fear of death, which is super good. But it also maximizes the number of hit points restored when you are healed. So, say for example, Shadowheart uses the spell Healing Word on you. Now normally that has a range of healing that it can do, that being a d4 I believe. However, with this equipped, you will always heal the maximum amount of HP from that spell, which is awesome. Next up is the Ring of Flinging. The wearer gains a 1d4 bonus to throw damage. Again, stacking these with our gloves, you're going to get 2d4 bonus damage on your throws, which is huge. You can get this from the very first vendor you meet in the game, so it's very, very easy to get, and I absolutely recommend picking it up. You will probably use this throughout the whole game if you like the throwing playstyle. And then finally, we have the Emerald. Now, this is called Crusher's Ring. I'll have an infographic on screen here, for again, for those of you who are new to the game. The way I add these items to my inventory, I use a mod, and for some reason the ring is named wrong here, but it is functionally the same. This is the Crusher's Ring, and it's going to give you an extra 3-meter movement speed buff, so it just, again, allows you to close in on your enemies even easier. So yeah, that is the build. Overall, again, as a bit of a starting/beginner's build, I think this build works extremely well. It's easy to use, simple but effective, and while it does require a little bit of finagling to really get going, such as the method of getting the weapon, overall, I feel like if you know what to do and you are prepared, this will just be one of the best builds you can get early in the game. Well, I say one of the best. It's one of the most fun. Again, being a massively effective tank with resistance to all damage, having an extremely powerful +3 greatsword, and then even beyond that, being able to pick up and throw pretty much anything for a really powerful and funny and unique ranged option, is going to lead to a lot of fun times in the game. There are some other ways you could do this if you care less about throwing. You could grab the Gloves of Dexterity to bump up your, maybe your Charisma, so you can be a bit more of a face of the party, but you can still kind of be the party face with the abilities granted to you by Astral Knowledge, so it's entirely up to you to play around with this and kind of decide what's best for you, but playing with the playstyle I have shown here is absolutely going to get you quite far. So yeah, I mean, the combat footage should be playing on screen now, and I kind of tried to show off the regular kind of like weapon attack strategy, as well as the throwing strategy, and you'll see that both do kind of work overall. So yeah, I think it works quite well. I do note that I test all my builds on Tactician, although I do think this build will really strive in balanced mode, again, if you're playing as a beginner, but I like to test my builds in a tougher environment, and as you can see, well, this build doesn't exactly have much trouble. As for my usual end of video stuff, like I said, I wanted to try something a little bit different here, and I kind of did end up approaching it as a bit more of a, like, beginner's build, or maybe like a beginner's guide to Barbarian or something. Not really that, but I think what you do get out of this build is a ton of cool stuff, and I feel like, again, it's simple enough that someone who is new to D&D, or Baldur's Gate 3, or just CRPGs in general, can get a pretty decent grasp on it and use it effectively. As for some other stuff, I mean, the channel is still going strong. I mean, the support on my last build, which was the Wild Titan, which was the enlarged wild shape combo, got a lot of support and did quite well, so that was really nice to see, especially considering I recorded that while I was dying. As far as other stuff goes, I was thinking for this weekend's live stream, as we will be doing another one on the Sunday, if I can manage it, I was thinking that if we didn't feel like doing just a part 2 to the last stream, we could take a bit of a break and maybe do a build theory crafting stream where you guys kind of we literally just sit on the wiki, come up with some stuff together, and that could become future videos. So if you guys are kind of into the whole build making thing and want to do that with me, that could be a fun thing. I don't know, we'll see how we go. I'll kind of decide as we go if I feel like that's something I want to do, but if you guys want to kind of go for that, we totally can. I don't think there's much else to go over. I'm going to see if I can kind of spruce up the channel a little bit soon. I'm kind of getting a bit tired of, like, kind of the crappy old banner I made a long time ago, and the, just the profile picture that's just a Hero Forge avatar. I'd quite like something a bit more unique, so I might try and get an artist to do a new profile picture soon. But I'm still here there on that, so we'll see where that goes. But again, I guess I'll just say thank you for all the support. The channel, like I say, is still going strong, and I'm hoping that we can keep going even further. So yeah, I think that's going to do it for me for now. Like I say, thank you for watching this video, and I will see you all next time. Peace out. I always do like a different intro every time. We need to come up with something a bit more standard.